In today's episode, an album which could probably be the best one you have never heard.
Hello, good evening, welcome to the latest edition of Crushed Custard, and today's album, which has randomly found its way out of the cupboard, is this one. It's the Butts Band, self-titled album from 1973 by a band called the Butts Band. Now, who are the Butts Band? Well, the Butts Band are the Doors without Jim Morrison, basically, with a new vocalist, and a new vocalist, one of my all-time favourite vocalists, who's never really had the credit that he deserves, a chap by the name of Jess Roden. So let's get on and look at this then in a little bit more detail. The Butts Band from 1973. Now, following the disappearance of Jim Morrison, the remaining members of the Doors came to England in an attempt to find a replacement frontman. Several vocalists were auditioned for the role, including Kevin Coyne and the aforementioned Jess Roden. However, the hot favourite and the choice of Jack Holtzman, the Elektra record label founder, was Howard Worth, the former vocalist of the Audience. Worth remained with the band for about a week, rehearsing before Ray Manzarek called the whole thing off and returned to America and declared the Doors as no more. Anyway, John Densmore and Robbie Kreiger thought that they'd been pretty impressed with Jess Roden. They thought he was far better than Worth anyway, and so they decided to stay in London and form a new group, which they christened the Butts Band. And also in the band were, as well as Jess Roden, were Roy Davis and Phil Chen. And the Butts Band were a mixture of styles, really. They sort of encompassed rock, soul, blues, jazz, funk, and even a smattering of reggae and calypso thrown in there as well. And they recorded their self-titled debut album in two separate sessions in 1973, one in England and one in Jamaica, with the album hitting the streets towards the back end of the year. Now, side one of the original vinyl contained the tracks that were recorded in Kingston, Jamaica, and they're packed full of that laid-back, easy feeling of life on that particular one. The opening track, I Won't Be Alone Anymore, from the pen of Robbie Kreiger, is a mid-paced rock track with some country and folk undertones, as well as a jaunty West Coast American-style feel. A couple of tasteful solos and an easy vocal melody there make the track a great launch into the album, and an album which is as far removed from the Doors as you can possibly imagine. Then we get a track called Baja Bus or Baja Bus. It's something of a classic amongst musicians who play and appreciate the jazz, funk, soul type of rock, and it claims to be the classic that all music of that ilk should be compared with. Jerky, jazzy beats, great bass, some really good drums, and some special guest conga work from Larry McDonald as well, all help to create a great laid-back groove that Roden positively shines over with his faultless vocal. Once again, the solos and musical passages are tasteful and help to form the feel of the whole piece, rather than being just there to massage the ego of the soloist. Having waxed lyrical about Baja Bus, I'm going to follow that now by claiming that the following track, Sweet Danger, which was written by Jess Roden, is the highlight of the whole album. It's a wonderfully laid-back, bluesy, soul-y track. It features one of Roden's best ever vocals. It's got a sublime melody and some great instrumentation for the band as well. The dirty, fuzzy sound of the main riff works perfectly in contrast with the careful picking of the jazz blues guitar solo, and as a vehicle for Roden's voice, it is perfect. But the musicians play their part from the beginning to end in helping to create a track which really should be declared an all-time classic, and yet, sadly, has not been heard by that many people. The Jamaican influence comes to the fore on the final track of the first half of the album, a track called Popper Top. It was co-written by Roden and the bass player Phil Chen, who was part Chinese, part Jamaican. The calypso-style intro and funky reggae guitar, courtesy of Chen, blend perfectly with the more straight-up jazz funk of the rest of the band. And once again, Roden's vocal is straight out of the top drawer. The second half of the album has the tracks that were recorded in London. And that starts off with the funky soul number Be With Me. Now, despite being written by Robbie Kreiger, it has the feel of Jess Roden's later solo material to me. It's an easy, laid-back track with a nice jazzy undertone. It's particularly pleasing laid-back guitar and piano solos. New Ways comes next, and that's a slightly faster, more up-tempo rocker than any of the others on offer here. And despite being above average, it's probably the weakest track on the album, even with the addition of Mick Weaver on the Wurlitzer. Love Your Brother is next, and that gets us back to the more funky jazz feel of everything, and it's something of a jazz, funk, soul, fusion stomper, for want of a better description. It's ideal for Roden's vocal style, and it also allows the musicians to shine with some great organ and guitar work. The solo jam into fade is particularly impressive and gets you into a really nice groove. The final track on the album is a bit of an oddity, as it's a live recording of the Lieber and Stoller track Kansas City. Now, there's no information on the sleeve to suggest where it may have been recorded, but the performance is certainly full of energy and quality. It's probably the closest thing on the album to the Doors, and it could go a long way to explaining why Deep Purple considered Roden as a suitable replacement for Ian Gillan in 1973, because he belts this out in great style. The Butts Band, the album, was well received on its release, and a low-key tour and several TV performances followed. I do believe that you can see one of those on YouTube, so I'm pretty sure they were on the Old Grey Whistle Test, and that footage gets pulled up and taken down and then put up again regularly on YouTube. There's definitely some Butts Band recordings available, so check them out if you haven't done so already. Kreiger and Densmore then returned to America after the album and the TV appearances were done, while Roden, Chen and Davis stayed in London. This, of course, proved quite difficult logistically, and the former Doors men eventually jettisoned Roden and continued over in America. Chen and Davis were likewise jettisoned at the same time, and Densmore and Kreiger went on to make a second album without those three, which, of course, is not a patch on this one. Roden went on to have a moderately successful solo career, not as successful as it should have been by any stretch of anybody's imagination. That man really should have been a superstar, but the good news again is that he did make a comeback a few years, or quite a few years, 20 odd years later, and made another album, and I saw him live a few times, and he was quite obviously enjoying playing and whatever, but he's apparently a man who doesn't really like the limelight, and he's quite happy living a quiet sort of life out of the way. Doesn't want to be a rock star, basically. Following this album, Phil Chen continued to be in great demand as a session player, and such is his contribution to this album that he can be forgiven for playing on Do You Think I'm Sexy by Rod Stewart. So the bottom line then is that the Butts album is, for me anyway, something of a lost classic, especially for people who like their rock music sort of steeped in blues, full of soul, with a huge helping of jazz funk thrown in as well. It's a mixture of styles, a little bit different. It's got a little bit of everything in there. Great musician, it's got a great vocalist. If you can find a copy of this, might not be as easy to get hold of as some albums, but you see them knocking around now and again. If it's available on CD, or if it's been repressed or anything like that, grab a copy of it. If not, have a look on YouTube, watch those live things. This band could have been massive if they'd have been given the opportunity. There you go, the Butts Band from 1973, featuring one of my all-time favourite singers, Jess Roden. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to help the channel to grow. See you again soon.